Hello and welcome to our latest video. In our Sustainability Perspective series, complementing the Sustainability Awards 2020 and the Sustainable Packaging Summit, we're sharing interviews with thought leaders from across the packaging value chain. And today I'm looking forward to getting insights into paper packaging from Koehler Paper Group. I'll be speaking with Eckhard Kallis, who's Director for FlexTech at Koehler Paper Group, Alexander Rauer, who is Product Manager for Flexible Packaging Paper, and Jens Griete, the company's Sustainability Manager. So welcome, Eckhard, Alexander, and Jens, and thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll find... Hello. We'll find out today about the potential of paper to replace plastics as a packaging materials, and also the hurdles that have already been overcome and will have to be overcome in the future on the way to achieving this. So to start with, on a general level, what would you say are the requirements for a pack to be fully sustainable?
Well, I start the discussion here and will, of course, involve my colleagues too. Thanks for the opportunity. First of all, when we look at a material, in our opinion, it should be fully sustainable if you take the whole value chain from the raw material up to the recycling. So it should fulfill every single step. And you need to check the points, so to say, to fall into the little bins here in terms of sustainability. If we come from our raw material, it's the forest. It's an infinite resource, never ending, growing, well managed. I think that's the biggest advantage we have to take this raw material instead of having other materials which are not really sustainable, I must say. And also, when we pass on through the whole value chain, we make sure that the material will be used in the recycling stream, and the material can be used to, in our case, also produce some other paper or packaging. Jens, would you like to add something on that?
I think what is really unique here is, had you mentioned the certified sustainable forest management, and I mean, shop around and look for materials in other areas. Here, the certification means that the whole chain is third-party verified. So you have basically every little piece that we are using is at least risk assessed, and that process is third-party verified. I think this is really something that we need to tell about more often to the people, because this is simply something not necessarily known or not rewarded really sufficiently yet. That's a key argument if you look at it. It's a renewable resource and it's risk assessed, and there's no excuse. It's an absolute approach. So everything that we are using is included. Our materials are recyclable, and it's reasonably easy for the consumer to be able to contribute to that process. You just have to collect our packaging material with the regular waste paper, and then the circular process continues, and you can produce recycled paper out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps makes it very easy for the consumer to do that.
Yeah, from my side, I think from the raw material view and from the end of life view, everything had been said. But also, of course, sustainable packaging has to provide the right barriers for the right products, because we cannot do so much compromises on shelf life and product safety, because we all know that a lot of resources are bent into the product itself. So of course the product has to be saved and protected well by the barriers a sustainable packaging has to provide.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a very, very important point for sure. So yeah, I was wondering, Koehler Paper is working on paper packaging that can replace some plastic packaging. What would you say are the key challenges there?
Well, if I start again, I would say, first of all, we have to overcome a certain mindset in the industry. The mindset that a film does everything, is great, have all the barriers, etc., and paper has to do exactly the same thing, run on the same machinery, etc. So that was a good learning curve for us, having this engagement with brand owners, converters through the whole value chain. And one example, and perhaps Alexander can add on this later on, with a packaging machine supplier, we did several testings and certified and confirmed in the end that paper runs on existing packaging machines extremely well, like films. And that was the first learning for us, and also brought confidence to brand owners and converters, saying, okay, I can utilize my installed machinery, I don't need to reinvest, and I get the same result from efficiency and performance on the material. Alexander, what are your views here?
Yeah, you're perfectly right, Eckert. Crucial is, of course, the processability of the material and the reliability of the quality we get out there. So we have to consider sealing strengths of the packaging after the process on the vertical or horizontal form fill seal machines. We have to produce tight packs, of course, and also, yeah, the material mechanical properties has to provide good values that we can yes, offer to our customers, packaging which saves the product during his whole life cycle.
Great, thank you. And I was wondering, obviously, with paper packaging, maybe barrier can be a bit more of a challenge. Are there any notable advances in that area that you would like to share?
Yes, of course. I mean, when we talk about the barriers, we typically, first of all, we have to divide two areas here, the food applications and the non-food applications. So non-food application in terms of barrier is a little bit easier because you don't have any food contact. But in the area of food applications, we talk about the barriers, oxygen, water vapor, mineral oil barrier, fat barrier, etc. So quite normal. And the advances we made so far is we see that we can reproduce the material which is suitable for the certain applications, which fulfill certain applications. Sometimes what we notice is that the requirements from the brand owners are extremely high in terms of barriers. And once you engage with them, it's pretty obvious, and they say, okay, perhaps technically over-specified. The product doesn't need, for example, such a high water vapor barrier. We can go with medium barrier, and that then brings speed to the whole development process.
Yes, and this over engineering of the current packaging and in the mind of a lot of brand owners that their product need that results of the existing packaging, because today we have more layer compounds using aluminium, which provides excellent barriers and so on, from which we want to get rid of. And yes, no one did so much. No one thought about so much about what his product is needing really, and now we have to go deep into discussion and to make some trials, for example, shelf life tests, to identify what the product itself needs really.
Yeah, and what we also see already in the industry, as Alexander just mentioned, there's a lot of testing ongoing in the industry, in I would say small formats right now. They will be launched this year, and we have seen already some product launches in the markets. But the big pull will come in 2022 because, as Alexander mentioned, there's shelf life testing, etc., and logistic testing, etc., with the paper packaging that needs to fulfill all these, I would say, requirements. Once you are through, you can really roll out, and that will take, I would say, normally we talk about 6 to 12 months testing and verifying the material.
Some interesting points there, thank you. And I was wondering, what are the challenges around regulatory restrictions in this area, for example, for food contact? Have you observed that there is a lot of variation in different countries or areas, for example?
It is, and of course we are very aware of that. Europe-wide, more or less, that is reasonably clear. However, you find here and there in the different countries the special rules that we need to take care of. But that is reasonably clear. So that is we just have to match the packaging requirements, and that means that the food that needs to be protected needs to be protected and needs to be safe for the consumer, and that is just on the list of the product requirements. It's just a regular product development and product characteristics. Other regulations are a little bit more of a concern. If you think about the Single-Use Plastic Directive and the definition of polymers in it, that is unfortunately the industry is not necessarily always heard. So that is unfortunately a definition of polymers in it, which includes paper packaging. Right, so you are ending up as a plastic product, although it's basically paper with traditional paper ingredients, and still, just by definition, we are being defined as our products are being defined as a plastic product. That's very unfortunate. I think there needs to be still a lot of education that we need to do, also to the regulators, to really come there and fine-tune these regulations so that we are also matching the goals of the Green Deal eventually. We want to have a circular economy. We want to perfect it. Paper packaging is already quite good in that area. So most of paper-based packaging is circular. When it comes, of course, to flexible packaging materials and barriers and laminates, there needs to be there's still room for improvement, and that's what we are working on. We have joined the Forever Green initiative, which is exactly focusing on these challenges, and yeah, we are very much interested in a great success of this initiative, so that we can finally succeed in having more paper-based flexible packaging in the market.
Yeah, that's a very interesting initiative. We have a podcast coming up with Forever Green in the near future, Packaging Europe. So yeah, that's going to be interesting, I think. And on the subject of variation, have you noticed any difference in how and for what applications paper packaging is used in different areas and countries around the world?
Well, I would say if you start the development in the journey and you have a product in the market which might be suitable in terms of barriers for example, for confectionery, and you have the oxygen barriers, the fat barriers, mineral oil barriers, all of a sudden then you roll this out, and then you see other brand owners coming and say, hey, that could be something for me, even if it's not in the area of confectionery, but similar products which actually needs exactly these barriers. And that's a kind of how do we multiply the opportunities and the potential in the market, and identify, I would say, development partners. And that is key for us and for them, of course. To really combine your R&D resources, and then basically it works in a triangle. It's the brand owner, the converter, and us, and you talk about a variety of applications. And I would say there is a huge potential out there in the market. And one difference, of course, by country, some countries moving really fast. There are some really fast movers, very little restrictions, and they take also a risk to say they want to be the first in the market. So it's also kind of mindset, I would say. Some are more technically driven, some are more marketing driven. But the good thing is the consumer understands paper and knows exactly what paper can do. And I think what Jens mentioned also, our resource wood, that's our key point. We use this well managed, and so there's a good future in front of us.
Exactly, and the paper can be recognized easily by almost every children as paper, and you don't have the possibility when you're talking about plastic packaging, because there are so many different kinds of, and no one knows exactly where which paper or plastic packaging goes. So it's easily recognizable as paper and is perceived as sustainable packaging itself by the consumer.
And yeah, because sort of reiterating on that point of resources, how do you as a paper company make sure that you use resources responsibly? You already alluded to it, but yeah, I don't know if there's any extra points you'd like to make.
Yes, we touched on it basically already. The paper industry and we as Koehler, we have embraced chain of custody certification, and that means that we can trace back the material to its country of origin, and we know what species are used. This is all documented and traced back, and we have audits, and third-party auditors are conducting audits in the supply chain and make sure that the material that is used in our products is coming from certified and controlled sources. So that is something where the industry has reacted to criticism, to concerns, but I think we have done a great job here. We have come very far. We are able to show transparency, as said, and look at other materials. I think there's really a lot to do. If you look at the peers, the colleagues from the beverage carton industry, for example, they are trying now to establish these kinds of chain of custody for the other materials which are used, which is eventually the plastic film and the aluminium in it, and that's challenging. It's very challenging, and they are really in very first steps in that area, and but they are determined to also establish a chain of custody there. But what is completely common and standard in paper industry is hardly existing at all in other material streams, unfortunately, to be honest. Right, and I think it's up to us to really highlight this product characteristic, this sustainable product characteristic much more, and this should be more seen and recognized, in my view.
Yeah, I also think in conclusion, I mean, we have a great story to tell. Sometimes the paper industry was not smart enough to tell the story nice and smart and more often, as Jens said. And we will make sure that we will communicate a lot about what's driving us, how we can come to this sustainability agenda, fulfill the requirements, and follow here. And we will be very, very transparent, because that's I think we owe this the community, and we need to do that.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, some really interesting points there. Thank you. So yeah, that's all we've got time for today. Our Sustainable Packaging Summit has now finished, but we'll continue the discussion in 2021 with more discussion panels, interviews and commentary in the new year. So subscribe to Packaging Europe or follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter if you'd like to keep up to date. So yeah, thank you very much, Eckhard, Alexander and Jens, for joining me today. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.